Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to our esteemed panelists, Mr. Amit Sheth, Mr. Dinesh Pangte, and Mr. Sumnesh Joshi, moderator CA Sudha Bhushan, members and guests for this event. India's economy is of global importance. UN report projects India will be the world's fastest growing major economy in 2022. India is already a contributor to global economic growth, yet there is considerable untapped potential. A young India with large digitally enabled society is asking for growth and change. India is building the skills and capabilities necessary to drive innovation. However, India can create capabilities for growth and new solutions. These opportunities, both at home and abroad, are limitless. Today, our eminent panelists from the complete diverse backgrounds, Mr. Amit Sheth, Mr. Dinesh Pangte, and Mr. Sumnesh Joshi, will discuss the opportunities, challenges in India's Outlook 2030. The session will be moderated by our own CA Sudha Bhushan. Before we begin, on behalf of the IMC Ladies Wing, I would like to present our eminent panelists an e-certificate from Grow Trees consisting of a ticket of 5 trees each planted at Bombay Metropolitan Region in your honor as a token of gratitude on behalf of the IMC Ladies Wing. Also, here's presenting Entrepreneur Now Committee for the year 2021-22, held by Vice President Ms. Roma Singhania, Chairperson CA Sudha Bhushan, Co-Chairperson Umehani Khorakiwala, Advisories Bharti Gandhi, Radhika Nath, Members Radhika Haribhakti, Anita Parekh, CA Pushpa Shah, Samira Shah, Alia Kathawala, Reena Deora, and Neha Rumta. Now, may I request Reena Deora, member of the committee, to take the event forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishreen. I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists. I'll start with Mr. Sumnesh Joshi, a dear friend who's been working with Aadhaar ecosystem partners like state governments, regulators, banks, insurance companies, and fintech companies to use Aadhaar for delivery of various services and benefits since 2010. He has deep knowledge of various governance schemes and driving the use of Aadhaar, a digital identity, in e-governance for direct benefit transfers and for beneficiary identification. He has also been working with state governments in designing the solution for convenient delivery of various services using Aadhaar at a public distribution system, transport department, national social assistance pension schemes. Mr. Doshi ensures the use of digital platform for targeted delivery of services. He is a leader, a visionary, a go-getter, and has been playing an important role to reap the benefit of Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile, Trinity to boost the digital economy. We are proud to have you with us, Sumesh.
Thank you.
Mr. Amit Sheth. Mr. Amit Sheth is one of the co-founders of Orient Pro. It has 22 offices across 12 countries and is one of the key drivers of growth for the company. Since 1997, he has steered the accelerated growth of the banking and financial technology business. Mr. Sheth got the company listed on the Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange, and was instrumental in building the company's product and services portfolio. Mr. Sheth brings more than 18 years of experience in corporate finance, equities, and technology to his role. A deep domain expertise in banking operations and transaction banking. Prior to Orient Pro, Mr. Sheth held key positions in the 20th century finance. He is also an engineering graduate and an MBA finance. Welcome, Mr. Sheth. Mr. Dinesh Pantaki is the Chief Executive Officer of LIC Mutual Fund. He has 35 years of experience across private equity, life pensions, insurance. He strategized the setting up of the new fund under SABI and directly raised 92% of base corpus. The fund is shortly poised to exhaust the green shoe option close to 1,000 crores. Welcome, Mr. Dinesh. Now, our lovely moderator, Sudha Bhushan, is a CA, CS, and insolvency resolution professional. She has written lots of books on international taxation, an independent director with a lot of listed companies, and advisor to a lot of big multinational companies, including Fortune 50. Proud of you, Sudha, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reena. Thank you for the lovely introduction of myself and everyone else. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, yeah.
So around the 3 trillion economy that we are, and with the dream of going 5 trillion USD by 24-25, where do we stand today? And where are we headed? We have come very far by huge success of projects like Aadhaar, matured stock markets, huge push in the startup ecosystem, ease of doing business. And as per the reports, the growth trajectory, which India, it is projected that by 2030, by overtaking UK economy in 2025, Germany 2027, and Japan in 2030, India is going to be the third largest economy. So where actually we are headed to? Let us understand that with our esteemed panel, who present the complete bouquet of the stakeholders that we have in our economy. Welcome Sumneshji, Dineshji, and Mr. Amit Seth. I'm excited that we are here today discussing with the stalwarts of your own field that you are, all of you, on the topic which is very relevant and most important to all of us today, that is India 2030. So gentlemen, I'll be asking the questions from the economy, and you are from your subject area, and basically on your outlook. How do you see the various things going forward? Mr. Amit Seth, let me start with you. So is it right to say that India as an economy is on the cusp of major transformation, which is driven mainly by digital economy?
Yeah, so Sudha, India is definitely transforming, and this is an era of digital economy, and we are seeing value creation by newer business models, which are actually bringing out a paradigm shift in the economy. So if you look at last few years, right, almost everything that we do has changed, like the way we read, the way we shop, way we remain fit, way we manufacture with 3D printing, the way we do our banking, the future of the factories. So everything around us will change and has been changing. But you know what? The world has been changing forever, right? So from Paleolithic to maybe Neolithic age, which was led by agriculture revolution, to maybe industrial revolution, to information revolution, and now digital revolution, the mankind has evolved, and we are also evolving. But this time around, something is different. right? So what is this difference, right? The pace, the cost, and the impact. So for instance, with 50 million, like, it took about, so let's say we talk about, telephones to reach 50 million users, and, uh, radio took about 75 years to reach 50 million users, whereas Facebook achieved it in close to 3.5 years, and Angry Bird did it in 35 days, right? So uh, the pace of change is dramatic this time around. And with 65 crore mobile users and around 45 crore social media users, we are rapidly adopting innovation and bringing efficiency in the economy. So, coupled, with the confluence of technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, big data, and with the cost of innovation coming down by 90%, we are poised to even bigger changes in the future. So, definitely, we'll now see business models, newer business models coming, and newer business models that will come through. So, consider this, right? World's largest taxi company owner, Uber, he does not own any vehicle. The most popular media company, Facebook, they does not create any of its own content, or for that matter, the most valuable retailer, Alibaba, has no inventory, and the largest accommodation provider, Airbnb, it's not owning any real estate. So I think uh, this whole shift is, in terms of business models, and also it is creating huge value, which is led by digital companies and technology. So, so much so that if you look at the top 10 market capitalization companies globally today, only two of them, that is, Saudi Aramco and Berkshire Hathaway, which is also incidentally invested in most technology companies, are non-technology companies, right? The bulk of it is Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, and others, which represent the value shift in the economy. And back home in India also, right? If you look at only 13 of the original Nifty 50 companies have remained in the Nifty. So I think there is clearly, innovation that is driving and creating massive value. So if I look at just 2021, there are 27 new unicorns that have happened only in 2021. So we're seeing, massive changes in the economy of all spheres and a very inclusive growth. I think all of this together, right? Improvements in healthcare, which will improve the life expectancy by 2030 to 50 years. Education, we'll see about 100% education with with an average of 10 years of schooling from 7 years today. Productivity in agriculture improving from 4 to 7 tons an hectare, and financial access from 35% to 90%. Manufacturing, share of manufacturing going up from 12 to 25%. Organized retail from 8 to 50%. I think almost everywhere we are seeing huge changes.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, the changes are huge and also, I mean, surprising. So out of 10 companies that you're saying, the global giants, only two are non-technology, right? Yeah. So, but what I see that all this change is driven by technology. It's everything is digital economy, and all these changes are driven by technology. But we can surely do, and since it is driven by technology, we can do the placing also of India very well. But what I see it as that to make the use of this momentum, the biggest role that comes to be played is of the government, isn't it? I mean, government, until unless the policies are there, until unless we have the infrastructure to use this whole momentum that has been created by the digital economy, will not be able to be where we have dreamt of. So Sumneji, going forward, my question is to you. So being part of one of the biggest success of India digital story, would you like to share with us what is the government vision of 2030 from the perspective of digital economy? And what are the various new initiatives that have been taken up by the government to boost so?
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, I'm asking that how are we tapping the benefits of digital advantage as a country?
Yeah. So thank you, Sudha, and thank you everyone, and giving me an opportunity to share my views on the IMC platform, and especially Reena also introduced me with the IMC, the Elite Ladies Club. So thank you very much. So see, when we talk about the economy, the moment we say economy, people just the one word comes in the mind, the GDP. That's it. And if you ask an economist or who is studying the economy, what is economy? They straight away say there's saving, investment, consumption. So these are three terms. They relate with the economy. So basic, the fundamentals of the economy. But now with the technological advancement, when we coin the term the digital economy, because the economy that is happening on the cloud, online, in the digital space, so that we are seeing the transformation of the economy. So in terms of the digital economy, that more and more people are transacting online, basically. So, and the government of India and the Ministry of Information Technology is spearheading this digital economy program of the government of India. And the government is committed to make India $1 trillion economy in a few year of span. So see, when we say the digital economy is what government is doing. So what do you mean by the digital economy? That is, of course, the people can save online, can invest online, or maybe all the goods and services should be made available online. People can pay taxes online. So all the economic activity should take place online. That is in the digital space. So now this is what we want to achieve, and to achieve this, so we need a digital space for each and every one in our country, corner of our country. So digital space, that is the online or internet connectivity, basically. So we have a 6 lakh villages. So we want to ensure that the people living in a remotest village should be part of the digital economy by any means. So government of India has already launched a project that is a BharatNet, and it's really at the fast track. And maybe in a few years, we are going to see the optical fiber connectivity with each and every village. So the availability of the digital space will be there to perform the economic activities. And of course, we have seen the first at the time of the demonetization, and then second in this last 1.5 years in the pandemic time, the people are now more tax savvy. They are doing online transactions, and the digital payment has been adopted. So more and more transactions are happening. So government is working for the adoption of the digital mode of payments and the transaction. And UPI, you have seen the success. And then, the penetration of the smartphone is increasing. More than 50 crore people are having a smartphone, because we require a smart tool. So one can use this digital space. Now, and further, there's an unorganized sector, right? So people are not aware about the government benefits and how to take the contribute in the economy. It's a parallel economy. So government with this digital space, they are coming on the net, and everything is transparent, visible, and we are putting this unorganized sector into the organized, the mainstream. So it will again add into the economy. And lastly, I will say that whatever we have to do, see, any service we have to give, or any transaction that is happening, what we require, the first and foremost thing is the identity. Without identity, and in terms of the KYC, it is know your customer. See, so one cannot invest, one cannot open the bank account, one cannot take the mutual fund. So the Aadhaar is a platform that everyone is using. Now we have given 130 crore Aadhaar numbers. Almost every adult is having in our country this Aadhaar number, and using this electronic KYC, this Aadhaar-based eKYC, more and more things are available online, and people are doing this eKYC thing. So basically, this trinity, that is Jan Dhan, that is a bank account and mobile penetration, and this Aadhaar. So GeM Trinity is making this happen. So this is how, the government is putting all out effort to drive the digital economy. And what we are visualizing, that is the cashless, presenceless, and the paperless sort of economy. So this is the vision of the government of India. So we are committed towards that.
So cashless, presenceless, and paperless. That's what you said.
Paperless, yeah.
Everything. I mean,
Yeah.
Wonderful. And how long do you think we'll take to reach out to that vision? I mean, cashless, paperless,
you can
and presenceless.
Already, this is happening. You want to open a national pension saving account, you just simply go online and do it. It's just within a minute, your account is opened and you start investing.
Yeah.
So this is the power of.
Yeah.
Everyone is very quick. Yeah.
Very quick. Yeah. Thank you, Somneshji. Dineshji, I keep wondering, like, there is so much happening. There is so much happening in terms of the way the businesses are shaping up. Everything is changing. So, and the different sector, if you see the COVID as well, different sector got impacted very differently. So we saw a huge shift from unorganized to organized sector, and also unorganized were impacted very badly, and organized, in fact, they accentuated in some manner. So when so much is changing around us, what are the sectors that you see that will fuel the growth of Indian economy 2030? So what are the sectors to look for?
Basically, taking the discussions forward from where Amit Sethji and Somnesh took it, from what digital impact it will have. And Amit rightly covered a lot of economic propositions. Basically, why do we say that India would be different going forward? Why do we have such a huge optimism about the future? Let's try to understand that first. The first thing is the rise in the middle class, which is going to take place, is going to be huge and humongous. And it is said that around 70% of the world's middle class shall be residing in this country, India. And almost 55% of this Indian population would be joining this middle class. And of course, we know that compared to China and US, as per our demography, we are younger ones, right? So in terms of numbers, we'll already take them just a couple of years going forward. We'll already take more than that. And what happens is, if you look at both private consumptions and savings, it is always fueled by the middle class. This is what drives the growth. And the consumption almost in India, private consumption is almost at 60% of the GDP, and the private
You said how much percent, sir?
This is around 60% of the GDP.
Yeah.
Right. So this number, which is going to swell, is going to be a real remarkable in terms of the way the country will emerge in the future. So it's almost, you can see it. There's nothing that somebody is going to predict. So ye dikh raha hai. We are able to visualize it because it's there hardcore, there the things which are happening very somewhere. A second part which would be fueling a lot of growth in the country is one major shift which is coming for the last 2 decades. As we see the what you call the women empowerment, and this your IMC is ladies wing is here today. What is the beautiful thing which we are looking? See, right from way back when we were students studying in college, and that time biogas started in a big way, and biogas, who really initiated those processes, of course, that the government of India was there, and they had a what you call there's an abbreviation called MNRE, that is new and renewable energy.
Yes, sir.
The participation into that gobar gas kind of a thing was primarily driven by the women folk in the country. And this, I believe, hardly today is the women folk which are in the market doing a livelihood is supposed to be somewhere around 17%. And this has to go around 40%. What people believe that by 2020, this women folk, which will be really making, you look at the kind of a government push is there for the board seat for the women, for the what you call judiciary, our chief has gone to say that 50% should be women. I see this as a backup. So these two main driver, which because today we see the petrol pump. In the petrol pump, there are ladies filling up the petrols, right? And there is a lot of dignity in what they do. The best part is the people getting out of that stereotype. So this the pride in what they are doing. This what makes me believe this middle class theory, because after all this will translate into the middle class. This what makes me believe this are going forward in next 10 years is going to be a humongous, making a changes in the way we act. And now what you said that sectors are little difficult to really talk about, and it's not easy to say that how the things will go on. But if you look at just for the last 4 years, how the government has taken things, government has scrapped a lot of laws. And if you put it in numbers, it is supposed that more than 1,300 laws have been repealed or revised. So there's a lot of change in the way the procedures, the rules and the regulations are going through, especially in the space where Somnesh dominates the digital part, like e-auctions. Things are becoming more transparent, more accountability. So this is what major we see the what you call the changes, and of course this with the government initiative of because the sectors are also going to be undergo a lot of change with the this incentive PLI which government has brought in. So this is going to be a wheel in various things to happen. The way we are going to from the what we say that make in India, made in India, and make in India. So these PLI are really going to benefit the industries. The government is looking at each and every industries, and step by step they are kind of consolidating it, right?
Definitely, sir.
And and you look at if you look at infra is going to be again a big thing, because the warehousing and transportations are key segments which are going to be really the way the corridors are being made with 6 freight corridors transferring throughout the country. So infra ke bagar there can be no development. Let us.
You were saying. Yeah.
So
infra is another sector to look for.
Yeah, surely. So infra is going to be for any country. Infra is going to be one of very important, and government has taken it. If I remember correctly, this government has been concentrating on this infrastructure to push. Just now, Sitaraman had unveiled a package of 102 lakh crore for this infrastructure project under this national infrastructure pipeline to be implemented precisely in next 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So I believe this adequate funding of infra will happen 2 things. the tax, the turnover time will see a remarkable improvement by way of goods and services, right? So that
Definitely, sir.
especially the good transportation is going to be amazing. So it will, and with this,
I completely agree, sir. I completely agree. I mean,
so it will push the metal, the cement, the demand, the growth, and foremost the employment. As again, I go back to the middle class rise, and this is what is going to really drive, of course, the middle class. And IT is another area which has been very, very, in this disruption, the way TCS and other companies, Infosys, other companies are coming in. We are going to be a big powerhouse in this persuasion of this IT. One
definitely.
which COVID has brought in, which I believe Amit will agree with me, that the world after COVID is looking for option B. And option B, because option A is invariably China, because it takes away all the business, right? So when you talk about option B, they are looking at India because of its population, because of it's near the shore, transportation, etc., etc. And this is what is government really looking into this sector.
Exactly, sir. Exactly.
Option B would be something which probably 5 years back or 10 years back we might have not even factored in.
Agreed, sir. Agreed. Completely.
Option B, especially the manufacturing, what was domain, and only there was the only supplier. Because laptop in this COVID time, it was taking 4 months to get a laptop. Dell ka order karo, koi bhi order karo. Why? Because there was a lockdown, there was a shipping issues. Now this has made India to realize that we need to have not only India, the demand has come from the world, but India has this capability. Why doesn't, and these all PLI are sequence to this happens. And that's why immediate impact, which Amit ji, I believe will agree, has been the chemical, having the chemical, the textile, the phone. We are started producing the phones like GOS and Google have. They're setting up the factories. Apple has already set up the factories. So these and of course without this agriculture, again in this COVID time we have been showing a very resilient, and I believe with what government has really done on the land and labor reforms.
Yes, sir.
Watershed movement. So if you look at the way the India youth, as I say, the middle class coming, the youngsters. Why even I will say this, apart from the others, the lady entrepreneurship, the renewable energy will show. Renewable energy is going to be a big mark, and it is going to throw up a lot of employment opportunity to build this, what do you call this, the middle class, because it's going to go down deeper into the rural. It is going to get employment there in all the what we call renewable energy. As I said, that gobar gas. That is how I was trying to.
So if I had to say it, sir, then middle class moving. I mean, lower class moving to middle class.
Along with the gender, the
women empowerment.
Women empowerment. That's the crucial part. Because I believe, my very strong belief is, किसी भी revolution के लिए, you understand, for any revolution to happen, वो हमेशा चूल्हे से हो.
अरे वाह सर, very nice, very right sir.
जब भी कोई बड़ा काम होता है, तख्ता पलटा जाता है, इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन होती है, उसकी जो नींव होती है वो चूल्हे से आती है, क्योंकि चूल्हा वो स्ट्रेंथ देता है. चूल्हे में प्यार, वात्सल्य, ताकत, एनर्जी, सारा कुछ समावेश है.
बिल्कुल सर, बिल्कुल.
ये हमारे जो मिडिल क्लास को जो ये this will what will really usher in this.
Sir, very energetic and very positive outlook that you have, and we are happy that it is starting with all of us women. So I'm very happy to understand that.
Absolutely, and in fact, if you ask me today, I had an MP meeting and I had another meeting which is being addressed by IM Professor Mr. Jacob.
Yes, sir.
I chose to stay here because one was my commitment. Second,
Yes.
I really felt the women empowerment and the ladies wing should understand what the corporate world thinks about it and how important are they in the economic growth of this country.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. In fact, if you see the globally also with the concept, and in India also it is incorporated, the concept like ESG, which is incorporated, that talks about environment, diversity, social, and your governance. It has a very prominent point about diversity. So a company is not to be gauged only by the profits that it is making, but also on various other parameters, like the donation it is giving, the environmentally friendly it is, diversity it is able to create. Thank you, sir, for your outlook. Now, with this in mind, that the spaces are there. So how do you think, Amit, over to you, that the future of employment? I mean, what Dineshji spoke about the sectors, like where to look for renewable energy, infrastructure. But with the shift that is happening, what do you see the future of employment and the workplaces? If you can talk about it, please.
Yeah. So, this is very interesting, Sudha, because, while we are seeing, a lot of disruption leading to job losses and, the requirement of reskilling. So I think today there was a headline, and we come across these headlines almost every other day, right? Like 2 lakh jobs have been lost. And there seems to be, a worry around this disruption because, if you really look back at the history, right, this fear has always been there whenever, a revolution happens, as, Dineshji was saying, right? So kind of when, every time that we have moved to our next phase of economic growth, I think we have lived with the concerns over job losses due to disruption, right? So, when the first agricultural revolution happened in America about 200 years back, or when, there was this industrial revolution that happened, or even during information revolution where, the accountants and the stenographers felt that, they will be without jobs and what will happen. So these fears are not unfounded. But as we kind of now look at that, and as we look back, right, the gains that you derive out of the economic prosperity and resultant reskilling far outweigh the temporary losses. So, it's not about job losses, but about, redefining jobs. And, so much so that I think this time around, with so much of disruption happening with confluence of technologies, the concept, yeah. So first is, lots of jobs will become redundant. Like, for instance, if I look at, just to give you a few examples, right, to kind of set perspective, bank branches will get people less, investment decisions will be taken by robots, retail jobs will
if I can intervene. So I think you will also have a lot of role to play in that. Bank branches becoming people less. Chaos can things.
Yes. So I'm saying, with all of that, Sudha, and maybe like the way we know jobs today, right? Like your taxi drivers or personal chauffeurs, they all be cannibalized by automated cars. Retail jobs will go away. So yes, there will be a huge disruption. But at the same time, I think we'll open new jobs in technology, data sciences, and service sectors, which will far outcompensate the traditional job losses. But I think there is much more interesting shift that is happening, and which is something that I want to talk about, right? The whole concept of employer-employee relationship and a permanent job of, 24 days a month, 9 to 5 working hours, that is changing. That is changing lot. And we may, with the technology advancements, especially after COVID, right, with adaptation of the digital platforms accelerated, we may see a lot of people pursuing their hobbies, using their skills, and in the process earning their livelihoods. Like you'll see people just want to be a musician, do a performance, be a yoga teacher. You will see teaching students, being agony aunts, agony uncles, and you make a living, right? You don't have to be a 3 to 5 job. And
is it something to be happy about, or is it something to be that we should be cautious of?
No,
because I think it's a great shift that is happening.
This is a great shift because I think you have to change the perspective of the way we look at jobs. I believe Uberization of work will happen, and this is happening already, but it will accelerate, right? So our concepts of an organization, our concepts of having permanent employment, all will change. I for one, I know a company which is doing exceedingly well, and they do pitch books. So if you are a startup and you want to kind of develop a pitch book, they provide that. But I was amazed to see, it is a company that was formed on internet. They have not met each other. They contacted through internet, and whenever there is an job, they come together, just do this. So it's project-based engagement, skill-based engagement. If somebody is having expertise in certain sectors, they will be called in. So I think there is a lot of change that is happening, and that is something that is extremely exciting as well.
Great. So Amit, what should we teach our kids into?
I think kids in this generation, with the exposure that they have to,
they'll teach us.
They will teach us, and we should leave them to what they want to do. I think the biggest, Sudha, there is a lot of change in the thinking that is happening. We have lived in, especially when we grew up, right? We adopted this whole Maslow's hierarchy needs, right? So roti, kapda, and makan was, our focus, and our life was spent in building a house and paying the EMIs, right? But with the shared economy, I think the concepts have changed. You talk to the youth of today, he does not want to own a house, right? And as a parents, we are surprised, or I know people who have come from Harvard, and they've spent so much of time getting an MBA in Harvard, which is like such a great a medal to wear on your collar, but they are coming and saying, I want to do music, right? And I want to do some startup in media. So I think that this generation, their concepts of what is life and how they want to live is going to change, and it is best if we adapt to that very quickly, because you constantly have conflicts. I was talking to Reena ji also the other day, and this is something that we all will have to learn and adapt to.
Yes, agreed. Very well put, Amit. Thank you so much. Sumnesh, continuing, we spoke about sector, we spoke about employment. So how do you see fintech sector in coming years? Because that's what it is. That's what the future is. So what's your outlook on that? And particularly if you can touch on the mutual fund sector, as in how you being from that space, how do you think that mutual fund sector is enabled, and how entrepreneurs and startups can make use of this whole digital ecosystem?
Yeah. So that, see, as we rightly pointed out, so economy and whatever the activities are taking place, for example, online, and now particularly the fintech sector. So of course, I will just touch the financial inclusion sort of thing. So earlier the people are having the bank account. So generally, the male person is having the bank account because the bank branches are very far, sometimes 10 kilometers, 50 kilometers. So they are going, and that home humans are not having the bank account. So we did a study in the Machimar Nagar in the Mumbai. So where we opened a business correspondence, that is the banking correspondence, and using the Aadhaar eKYC, now bank account can be opened just one instant. One can open the bank account. So the moment we put the business correspondence, so called the banking correspondence in that slum Machimar area, the women were selling fish in the evening. They are maybe 100 rupees, 200, 300 rupees. But the first, they open the bank account. So the moment they open the bank account, so that gives a sense of empowerment. I don't know whether they are going to save much or further they invest, but the kind of empowerment, I think Mr. Dinesh has spoken about the empowerment. So this actually has created a wonder that has empowered everyone in the family. So opening of the bank account. And then if bank account is there, of course, one is going to save and then maybe going to invest. And by the present scenario, where to invest, what is the safe bet. So everyone is looking for the mutual fund, and so-called we see in the urban area typically, we so-called literate people are investing in the mutual fund because of course it's a good returns and fairly almost risk-free in 10 to 12% one can get, and maybe it's a good mutual fund, so you can get 22%, 25%. So, but why the people who are earning money? There are many auto rickshaw wala, taxi drivers, or maybe the rural area, the milkmen. So they are also earning 25,000, 30,000, 40,000, but they are not having any avenues, typically in the rural area. So why they are deprived about these type of products? That why not they can invest in the mutual fund. So earlier again the cost, maybe Mr. Dinesh can further add that the cost of acquiring a customer from the mutual fund is very high because of the regulation let down by the SEBI. It's lots of first time requirement, paperwork, etc. It doesn't come online, but still that was a very tedious thing, and because it has the cost of, and so no one is going into that market. But now with Aadhaar in place, digital identity in place, and now SEBI has already come out that yes, Aadhaar can be used as a eKYC by all the stockbrokers or the mutual fund agents, etc. So now this product is available all across the country. The cost is really come down. So there's a huge potential in this mutual fund market. We are not able to tap it. And one of the study, the BCG study I was seeing, they anticipated around 100 trillion rupees mutual fund market in India is a huge market. So of course, all the mutual fund industries after it, and with the online transaction, one can tap this market. And of course, other than mutual fund, there's a micro insurance and micro loaning, etc. Because the entire thing is the empowerment or enablement of the people and bring them into the economy. I just shared that I was traveling in Uber, and I simply asked the driver that okay, this is your car or you're rented. So sir, this is a rented car. Okay, so you're paying rent every day rent. So why not to buy the car? So sir, I don't have money to buy. So why not to approach the bank and take the loan? So I'm approaching a bank is not giving the loan because see, in the absence of much of the online transaction, there is no credit history, no civil score, and banks are straight away declining. No, we can't give the loan. But that person is in the requirement of loan. But what will happen the moment these digital transactions have been increased, and the money is coming into the bank account, and now money is going from the bank account. So very soon every person the transaction history is available to analyze, to just to rate the person's credit worthiness, that okay, how much money is coming, how he's investing, what is the investment expenditure pattern of that, whether he's more social evils or maybe the doing the expenditure for the family, or so maybe that will act as a credit worthiness. So maybe the bank can give the loan sort of thing, and many micro loan agencies, and with Aadhaar the KYC is very easy. So if we so if we start all these things, this is going to transform the economy. It will boost the economy because they will contribute. So and fintech sector, all of you have seen all the wallet companies and The UPI is the world's, the biggest payment platform. Whether you see the Google Pay, WhatsApp, Paytm, MobiKwik, any QR code, everything is working on the UPI. That is the Bheem interface we can see. So it's a really wonder, and the transactions have outpassed the ATM uses. And the startup entrepreneurs, because we require the technology is in place, right? And regulators are okay, you can deliver the service, but now who will? So many startups and many entrepreneurs can use this technology and open the companies and maybe use this digital space and provide the services in the rural area and tap the huge potential in the fintech sector.
Yeah, it seemed to be such a win-win for the country and for the entrepreneurs. I mean, 100 trillion rupees MF economy. That's you are
It's
saying.
a mutual fund
that's
market,
about
and other
25.
markets are also there. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a mutual fund.
Only mutual fund. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can,
then
invest
micro
into,
loaning, micro insurance. So all these things, the complete insurance sector is available. So
yes.
it's
And
a huge
such
market
huge
for startup and
opportunity.
entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Very,
it's a great
very,
opportunity.
yes, very, very huge opportunity. And I completely agree with you when you say that it was the cost of acquisition of the new person was very high. But with now your eKYC being done, this you can reach out to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. Why not?
Yes, correct.
So when we talk about this mutual fund industry of 100 trillion rupees, Dineshji, who else will know it better than you? I mean, so with all this stock market going up and all this, IPO raining sort of a season, what's your take on the stock market right now and mutual fund as such? Sir, you are on a muted mode. Sunmeshi, I hope, is there anything?
I'm able to hear you.
So we are indebted to Somnesh ji for the ease of business which digital is getting on the platform. So today, if you look at that ad where that the two girlfriends are waiting for the samosas and the guy with the QR code, he goes and gets samosa because he's able to pay 50 rupees or 30 rupees, whatever they cost. And that's what is happening on the ground level. So my fruit wala takes without cashless, the money goes, the fruit walas, the dhobis. So you look at the users, and this is what is triggering the growth. Coming to mutual fund, if you start the inclusive mutual fund growth, one area which I have been trying to work on, which I know the future is going to be very bright, is this inclusive growth on the mutual fund area. With this QR code and some good MDF distributor, this could be a game changer. This is what I so it's a huge market. As for the market, as we have seen for the last 18 months, the CAGR is over 5%. And since 31st March, if you look at when the pandemic started 2020, so the gain is around 140%. So you look at the amount of course, the recovery was due to the central bank all over the world giving various stimulus to see their stances, which was helping to see the market. And subsequently, this what you call the government came up, all the government in the world came up with this fiscal packages, which has really helped the industry to grow faster. And what has happened is in India, see, when we had this for the last mutual fund, in fact, mutual fund has not been an easy industry to grow. It has been one of the toughest one. Because it started in way back in 1985-86 when we started the our career. But the biggest impediment was the market was not evolved for a mutual fund to be absorbed. So it was the time जब 18% और 20% used to be the norm. and that too guaranteed. So in that period, that was a turmoil, and it's massacred most of the initial mutual fund. I think we are the amongst one or two which are surviving. Otherwise, all were massacred near 2000, and this is what happened. And in fact, the journey started from 2010 onwards after the meltdown. And in fact, because of the meltdown, because of the transparency in the what you call BSE and they made the transactions easier. And I believe already I have said we would like to, we would see a good going forward. We'll have a, with this interest rate is going to be one of the main component to drive the growth in the country. With the managed interest rate, of course, the inflation is controlled. The interest rate also would be in control. With liquidity coming in, I'm sure we have a very good period ahead. There could be we could hit a plateau. We could have some downside, but overall it looks very good. And for the mutual fund, number one, it is delivering. It is the people at large who have seen a lot of setback in past. Now they see with the transparency, with the SEBI's one of the strictest guideline. I think this is the only industry which we have 24/7 surveillance. So it's an industry with the surveillance, and that is the right thing, because here where the investors' money is very important. So with that kind of a mechanism, and with stock market going up, with gold going down, there's no takers. With crypto coming in, the gold is not there. The real estate, which used to buy 5 houses, 6 houses, as Amit was rightly saying, that people don't want to buy a house. So this is the right space for the mutual fund, where you are delivering better than the FD rates.
Absolutely right, sir. Absolutely.
So the FD rates becomes a negative.
Negative. Yeah, almost.
On the where it is net of inflation, it is going to give a negative. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Driving this mutual fund, and I think last decade was kind of a consolidating, putting the right practices in place. SEBI regulated it well, did a lot of things. Today also it is still regulating. And I'm sure this is the consolidation phase. अभी तो आपने वो क्या कहते हैं ट्रेलर देखा है
अभी शुरू. Yes, sir. Very nice, sir. Very nice.
For the mutual fund, picture अभी बाकी है.
Yes.
Once with these guidelines, if we show the good management practices, which is of paramount importance. Yeah. We don't want for the industry, and with transparency and with integrity, I see a very bright future. And जो अभी आप जो trillions में बात कर रहे हो, ये बहुत छोटे numbers है. Nowhere it touches what I believe this decade itself will bring to this mutual fund industry. And the
fantastic
part is
very nice, sir.
By and large, people know it. People at least नाम सुना है कि ये इसका share है, वो share है. This decade will show people the alternate, the debt industry, which so far has been little shallow. So mutual fund will be introducing the debt market in this, the passive market in these periods, where people get the comfort that when a passive में डाल दिया है, index में पैसा डाल दिया है, तो ये तो इंडेक्स तो ऑटोमेटिकली ऊपर जाएगा ही. उसके डाउन साइड होंगे वो लिमिटेड होंगे ऑन अ लॉन्ग रन ऑफ 3 to 5 years, बिकॉज द परसेप्शन इज बिकॉज ऑफ द स्टॉक कि म्यूचुअल फंड में पैसा 2 दिन में, 2 महीने में, 1 साल में, 2 साल में दुगना तिगुना होना चाहिए. बट इज totally wrong. The investment horizon has to be more than 5 years. Even right now it's 3.5 years. It has to be more than 5 years, and it should somewhere fulfill between the life insurance, that bucket of long term and short term. That's how I see it, and it's going to be an amazing period in this decade.
Fantastic, sir. Fantastic. Agreed, sir. With the negative return that we are getting in FD, I mean net of inflation, definitely the industry is the next is the only right investment avenue that we are left with. So. So you mentioned, I mean, not the topic of discussion, just so you mentioned about strict SEBI regulation. So how does these things like Franklin Templeton It has to close. We'll not be talking. I'm just telling you. So it had to close all these debt schemes. So, all these things are still happening. So there is, so we are not discussing.
I'll just basically क्या होता है ना, see what happens is there are people who have great मुझे 9% मिल रहा है, ढंग की जगह से मिल रहा है, कोई मुझे 10% या 11% ऑफर करता है, तो 1%, 2% के लिए I put my money elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
And frankly, in fact, had a very good practices and these things, and they had a credit fund also, and by the papers which they were holding, they were able to garner little better returns. And of course, what happened is known to everybody. But otherwise, I believe there have been there was a lot of good practices in the company. But this fiasco definitely has, on the debt part, really has impacted some people. But
yes, sir.
Learn and grow, and Templeton very soon will come up and stand again, getting back there. Their equity funds are doing well. I'm sure soon they will be out of this fiasco.
And let us see, sir. Sure, sir, sure.
Already SEBI has put a condition of skin in the game of all the key employees. So with that, and there's a clawback of the skin in the game also. So
yes, sir. Yes,
will bring it even better. So it's recent. It is going to be introduced from 1st October. So SEBI is doing all it can do to see that such thing doesn't happen.
Definitely, sir. Yes. So we spoke about your industry, sir, a mutual fund. Now coming to Amit. Amit, you come from banking industry. So how do you see the transformation that is happening in the banking space? So I understand that you have recently launched a payment gateway as well. So how the banking is changing around us. More also from the way perspective of how we will be banking now. I mean, we have already reached the space of digital money. What's next?
So I think banking is one industry which has seen tremendous changes over the last few years, and this whole change, it cannot be illustrated better than this example that I had read somewhere and this is dated. So this is 2014. I read a statement by Ross McEwan. He is the CEO of RBS. He said back then, and I quote, our busiest branch in 2014 is a 701 from Reading to Paddington. And over 167,000 customers use our banking services, traveling to work between 7 and 8 a.m. So, this is so true, and this is kind of amplified and magnified. So I've been doing banking technology for over 25 years. And, when we kind of started this journey of transformation, and I remember for one of the largest private banks in the country, we implemented a payment system, and for on the transaction banking side, and I used to go to tease their corporate customers or allay the fears that sending 10 crore by click of a button is risk free, and now we have seen the transformation. So I think banking is really changing, and it is going to change a lot. So, for instance, the products that we have on people-less bank branches, or, the payment gateway, the way I see the adaptation of this in the marketplace, every small village in this country will soon have access to banking at a fraction of the cost. And, with what Sumnesh ji was saying, right, with this whole Jandan, DBT, this is going to make, the growth very inclusive. So I also saw some questions, where people have expressed some concerns. over the growth. But as long as the growth is inclusive, I think the fruits of the growth will be shared across the urban and rural India and across genders. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think the best, if the, Amit, what you said, if the growth is inclusive, what's that you said?
I think as long as the growth is inclusive, right, the benefits of this growth will reach out to everybody and become sustainable.
Yeah, certainly. So, Sumnesh, to you, how inclusive is the growth? How do you think? So, Amit also spoke about direct benefit transfer. So, how much financial inclusion has been successful because of Aadhaar? So, I know you've been talking when you were speaking. You said you've been able to open 20 crore accounts in 2 years.
Yeah, see, it's not from 2014 that Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana launched, and till date, around 42 crores accounts have been opened in Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, and all are based on the Aadhaar KYC. And the best part is, as Amit mentioned, the DBT, that direct benefit transfers, because government is incurring a huge expenditure in the form of subsidy and giving cash benefits. So earlier, it's because if there's no bank account, so the cash was given, and then again there are people, rent-seeking people, that the 100% cash or benefit is not going to the last mile. Now, the benefit government is giving into the Aadhaar. So government is using Aadhaar as a financial address. It's not. So, as on date, government in any scheme is having the validated Aadhaar. Maybe they are linked with the bank account. So they simply say, yes, for me, this Aadhaar number is a beneficiary. I am transferring this much amount to this particular Aadhaar number. And it is going directly into the bank account linked with the Aadhaar. No intermediary. So, the moment the all digital payments happen, and then it's again a digital empowerment to that people. One is the benefit 100% is reached, and then that person will start, using the money in the form of QR code. Also, they will become a part of the formal economy or the digital economy. And this financial inclusion, in LPG, see earlier. So now every LPG subsidy is coming to the same Aadhaar as a financial address. So lots of bank accounts have been opened, and generally, we take this financial inclusion term is opening of the bank account, but it's a much more, if we see the financial inclusion means maybe that includes the financial literacy and financial awareness, and that includes the insurance sector and all finance related. It's not only so bank account is just a platform. This Aadhaar is the identity platform. Based on that, the bank platform has come, and then on top of that, so layer by layer, different fintech products are coming, and the best part is because of this ease of business, and these financial instruments are reaching even in the rural hinterland. So earlier, a limited sector or limited number of people are enjoying those type of financial products. So now the market is open and everyone is coming. So one is the inclusiveness of each and everyone, and while it is giving the empowerment, as I shared the story that the women empowerment, the as a, these are only two words, but it has a it's really long way that when women feel empowered, the lots of things happen in the family, then by that logic they start participating in the economic decision also. So Aadhaar is it's one of its kind in the globe, because when we showcase the opening of the bank account using the Aadhaar, rather than US Treasury Secretary Jack Lew, so he was amazed. See, in US also, if you open a bank account using the social security number, but you can't open it instantly. So okay, you're given the application. Okay, it will take some amount of time or maybe one day. Then you can start transacting. The account will become the active. Here, when we showcase that, yes, the instant bank account opening, and from the next instant you can deposit the money and you can transfer the money,
Wow.
using that same handheld devices. So, and that's the best. So we have now banking correspondence each and every country. And the example is the postman. You know, the 1.5 lakh postmen are equipped with a mobile and along with a biometric device. And they are opening the bank account at the door to door, even in the rural area, because the postman is only person who is actually touching every home in our country. Maybe in a village, he may be going or she may be going maybe once in a week or in a month, but they are going. So, you know, by this covering the entire country, so it's a door-to-door step, the person is visiting with who is equipped with this tool to opening the bank account. And now slowly, they are embracing more fintech services. Maybe any insurance product will come and Jivan Praman service, and then maybe the loaning service. So all will come, you know, the converts. So now we are going to see this convergence also, all the products and services. So, you know, it's just a one-stop shop sort of thing. Okay. And the kind of literacy is happening now, you know, people are using the smartphone. Maybe, you know, people are thinking that, okay, maybe it's not that one should know the English or very well tech savvy to use the smartphone for transacting any service. One can entertain himself by seeing the videos on the YouTube. One can make a video call to his family member in the Bihar and Odisha and West Bengal while remain in the Mumbai and seeing, okay, his family members and happy. So these are, so likewise, the business also that person can do. So this is a really a growth story, and India is witnessing, and first of its kind, and definitely we are going to achieve this digital economy at least $1 trillion in a few years.
Wow. I mean, we as a country should be so proud of this initiative and the success of the initiative. And we are. So, Sumneshi, I mean, you spoke about like how do we compare it internationally? So we have social security number in US.
Yeah.
So how do we? I mean,
yeah. So here, you know, the Aadhaar as such, maybe it's actually it's a number only. That's it. So in one of the earlier discussion when we were discussing with the SEBI or RBI regulator, they say you are also taking some of the documents or sort of thing, you know, and what is the veracity? The document you have taken is correct. So our point is we are simply giving a number which is unique based on your biometric. So whenever any person is enrolling, we are giving an identity number after matching that biometric with the all other biometrics. For example, any person is coming as on date, we are matching all 10 fingers and iris with all 130 crore biometrics, finger by finger. So it's a unique and it's eternal. We are not going to reissue this number forever. It's an eternal number. It will remain with the resident. And then this number is a random number. You know, there are identity in other countries also, but they have that, okay, social security number, okay, this is for this particular category, this SSN start with this particular digit, and this SSN belongs to this particular state, because so the California state, Washington state. So here it's a random number. So no profiling one can do using this Aadhaar. This is the best part, because we have learned from the UK, because UK started a similar project way back, collecting the biometric, issuing a number. But what they did, along with the name, address, gender, etc., they have taken 70 more parameters. What is the bank account number, health ID number, insurance, mutual fund, etc., etc. So that, you know, is an invasion of privacy. So what happened?
Which is not taken by
so many hue and cry in the UK, and then they have to scrap the entire project. So the ID project was scrapped there. But we learned, so in Aadhaar, we are not having nothing. We are having some biometric number and your name, address, gender. That's it. Minimal data. Otherwise,
so there
PAN,
is no
PAN number is having Aadhaar, bank account is having Aadhaar, insurance is having Aadhaar, but we are not having. So, you know, sometimes people are having myth that we are having everyone's, you know, Janam Kundli, everything we know. No, nothing like that. So it is a random number, no profiling. We are advocate of the privacy, and we are concerned about the privacy of the people. So no additional data we are asking, and we are concerning with the security also, and there is no breach of security from the Aadhaar servers. So we are giving utmost care to that. Nothing, no smart car intelligence, nothing. So Philippines is also emulating the same sort of project, and many countries have visited India, just to see that how India has done in the identity project. And World Bank, has really praised that it's one of its kind, that and because of this, the benefits are reaching directly to the beneficiaries. So it's everywhere is every country, basically all the leading world bodies are praising this Aadhaar platform, and now people are thinking that how to further improve it. So this is how we are different, and the last not but the least, see, we believe and we are advocating whenever people are using this Aadhaar, because we have given the Aadhaar now all the services, whether it's a mutual fund or opening of the bank account or giving the subsidized ration or any service, right, for employment guarantee scheme or widow pension or differently able people pension. So what we are telling, it's a consent based architecture. So if you want to authenticate an Aadhaar, please take the consent of the person. Okay, for this purpose, I am taking your Aadhaar and biometric. Without the consent, one cannot perform the Aadhaar authentication. So this is the overall architecture of that.
Wow. I mean, it's highly secure, wherein there can be no data theft. And if I have to put it, we can say we are better than US in terms of implementation and procurement of
in
data.
US,
and
if you ask,
Sudha,
in US, if you ask someone to social security, they are scared because lots of defaults are happening and misuse are happening SSN, because there's only this one factor SSN. Here, if my Aadhaar number, but you can't do because it requires my biometric authentication. It's a random number, and my biometric are also required, because system will respond when you will give Aadhaar along with the biometric or along with the OTP.
Fantastic. Yeah, agree. Fantastic. Yeah. So thank you, Sunmesh ji, for your so much of taking us into the various properties and benefits of Aadhaar. So Amit, how do you see one word? So we'll be ending. There are a lot of interesting questions that people want to ask you. The last thing that to everyone, let me start with Amit. Amit, one word, if I had to ask you, India 2030, what it will be?
I would say happiness and prosperity galore.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Wow. Dinesh ji, to you. Sir, you are on a mute.
We started with this pandemic. So what I would say, bloom after the gloom.
Amazing. Great. Shumnesh ji.
It's just I echo the Amit's voice. One word, that's not GDP. It's a happiness index that will prevail. Wow. We want to make India prosper in terms of happiness.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen. It was an amazing discussion, and we could have 100% perspective of India economy 2030. I think if I had to conclude this with the innovative forward-looking policies of government, demography in our favor, digital being equalizer, I think we are aiming and we will reach to 10 trillion economy by 2030.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Thank you everyone. It was a very interesting decision.
Thanks all the panelists and thanks audience. Or maybe Sudha,
there are a lot of questions.
So maybe you can share all those things. So maybe we can answer maybe the offline, or maybe you can share all the questions.
So Alia is taking the question. Alia is a member with our committee, entrepreneurs now. Alia, over to you.
Thanks, Sudha. You moderated it wonderfully. So unfortunately, we are running short of time, so I can take a few questions. There is one interesting one from Milan Mehta. So Amit ji, any suggestions on how to balance or take advantage of automation looking to a population growth so that unemployment is reduced?
So I think, if you look at even now, right, the current numbers are also kind of exacerbated because of the COVID impact. And, but while we see disruption in certain sectors, the newer jobs that are created out of, models that are, out of thin air, like, for instance, who could have thought that, Swiggy and Zomato would employ so many people? Or, Dunzo was a concept which was not even thought about, right? But it is today employing so many people. So I think we should embrace technology, because that's the only way to make growth more inclusive. And also, as you rightly said, both inclusive in terms of rural economy and in terms of gender diversity.
That's a great viewpoint, Amit ji. I think for my last question, it's from Maha, and I will ask Dinesh ji. With a galloping inflation of 5.7% and never-ending high rate of unemployment, don't you think our outlook is far too optimistic?
So it's always when we say we ask our children to score 95 or 97%. So heart of the heart, we say 90 आ गया तभी बहुत अच्छा, 85 आ गया तभी बहुत. Actually, to achieve any, what I believe is to aim high is the need, and aim low is it's not done, right? So I believe that we should be optimistic. If you look at, if you see the confidence of young India, if you look at it, like one industry you are saying which will grow, sports is one. With a medal which has come, is going to outpace 3 times the industry, I'm telling you. So right now it is projected that 8,800 crore would be the turnaround from the sports industry. So you don't know, the disruptions which are happening in this decade is going to be amazing. And in such an environment, we need to remain positive. You need to remain not always. I used to tell my people that always say positive things. मेरा नंबर अच्छा आएगा. वो हमारे नारद मुनि उस संवाद को लेकर माता सरस्वती के पास जाएंगे, किसने कहा नंबर ज्यादा आएगा. अगर कोई लड़का कहता है कि मेरी इनकम बढ़े, तो वो नारद मुनि उस बात को सीधे लक्ष्मी तक पहुंचाएंगे. That is the power of positivity. So I am a diehard optimistic. That's how the way forward is. And it will snowball again into various manifestations.
That's a great way to look at it, Dinesh ji. We unfortunately have to end here, but there have been too many questions, and we will share with you offline so you can answer them for us. And I would like to ask Mrs. Roma Singhania, she's our Vice President, to please offer her vote of thanks. Thank you.
Good evening. On behalf of the IMC Ladies Wing, I take great pleasure in extending the vote of thanks to our guest speakers, Mr. Amit Sheth, Mr. Dinesh Pankte, and Mr. Somnesh Joshi. Thank you for sharing your valuable insights and expertise on India poised for a $20 trillion economy by 2030. We are really waiting for the glorious times to start rolling, and with a positive mind, like Sir said. An insightful discussion session can never be successful without a powerful and fantastic moderator. I thank CA Sudhaji for moderating the session so beautifully. I would also like to thank Alea Kathawala for moderating the question and answers. Thank you, Sudhaji and Reena Deora, for conceptualizing the event. A big thank you to the members of the Entrepreneur Now Committee for supporting the event. My sincere gratitude to our members and guests for attending the same. I would like to inform you now about the next event. Talk on Happiness by Ms. Jaya Rao, scheduled for Monday, 4th October at 3:30 p.m. on Zoom. We look forward to seeing you again. Stay safe, stay happy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.